You can cut down a tree in the UK and end up facing criminal charges, unlimited fines, or even prison. Today, I'll break down what protected species actually means, how the law really works, and how to avoid ending up on the wrong side of it. I'm Joe, an ecologist working in the UK. Let's get into it. One quick disclaimer before we continue: protected species law can be complex, and the consequences of getting it wrong can be serious. This video is just an introduction, so if you're planning any work where protected species may be present, always seek advice from a suitably qualified ecologist. So, what actually is a protected species? It's any plant or animal that receives legal protection in the UK under UK wildlife laws. Species are usually protected because they're rare, vulnerable, or in decline, or considered nationally or internationally important. Protected species aren't protected at random. They often play an important role in ecosystems, and protecting them can conserve entire habitats and wildlife communities. It's also important to understand that protected species doesn't refer to just one list. The UK uses multiple layers of protection depending on the species and the threats that they face. Some of these protections influence planning and conservation decisions, while others create direct criminal offences. That means that harming certain species or damaging important habitats can be a criminal offence, leading to massive fines and even prison sentences. While the UK doesn't officially track these figures, analysis suggests that wildlife offenders were hit with more than £250,000 in financial orders last year alone. What do you think the largest fine ever given for a single protected species offence in the UK was? If you put your guesses in the comments, I'll reveal the answer a little bit later in the video. Whether you're an ecologist, developer, landowner, or are just simply interested in wildlife, it's important to understand how these layers fit together. So let's start with the broadest list of all. The first category we need to talk about is the Priority Species List, sometimes still referred to as the UK Biodiversity Action Plan or UK BAP. This list highlights the species that require the most urgent conservation action across the UK. Before I tell you the answer, I want you to guess how many priority species there are in the UK. If you put those guesses in the comments as well, we'll have a look at them later. This species list includes many species, from animals and plants to fungi. It's important to understand that this is the longest species list used in UK conservation, but despite its size, being on this list doesn't automatically give any species direct legal protection. Instead, it acts as a strategic conservation tool. It helps ecologists, planners, governments, bodies, and NGOs prioritise action, funding, and habitat management. So, time to lock in that second guess. There are currently 2,890 priority species on the combined national list. That includes more than 2,000 species on the Scottish biodiversity list alone. The priority species list doesn't give any species direct legal protection, but what it does, it tells us where conservation efforts should go. But the next list goes further. It shapes planning, decisions, funding, and catches developers out all the time. In England, the next layer of protection is the Section 41 list, published under the Natural Environment and Rural Communities Act, or NERC. This is one of the key lists which planning authorities rely on when making decisions during the planning and development process. The Section 41 list currently has 943 species on it, all of which are noted to be of principal importance. So these species are considered important for conserving biodiversity in England. This list also includes 56 habitats, but we'll look at these in another video. These species don't receive direct legal protections, and harming them isn't automatically a criminal offence, but what Section 41 does is it provides strategic legal weight. It directly influences how planning decisions are made and how public bodies must consider biodiversity. In practical terms, if a development could affect one of these species, planners are expected to take that into account when deciding whether permission should be granted. This means that the local authorities must account for them when reviewing proposals, and developers are typically required to follow the mitigation hierarchy when considering any losses. If you want to know where the mitigation hierarchy fits into ecology, check out this video here. Section 41 also places duties on public bodies, such as councils, requiring them to consider how their decisions affect biodiversity. It also helps to guide where government funding and recovery efforts are directed. The whole idea behind Section 41 is population level conservation. So it's not about protecting individual animals, it's about protecting the long-term survival of the species across England. So now that we've covered the strategic policy-driven end of protection, it's time to talk about the part where mistakes can become criminal offences. The Wildlife and Countryside Act of 1981 is the primary piece of legislation protecting wildlife in Great Britain, and unlike Section 41 species listed here do receive direct legal protection. That means harming certain animals or plants can be a criminal offence. There are three core protections which are most commonly encountered under this Act. Number one, wild birds and their eggs and active nests are protected. It's a criminal offence to intentionally kill or injure a bird or to damage its nest whilst it's in use. This is why tree works are avoided during the nesting bird season. Other species are protected from killing, injury and reckless disturbance in their places of shelter under Schedule 5 of the Act. This includes well-known species such as the water vole and red squirrel. Schedule 8 protects wild plants. This makes it illegal to intentionally uproot any wild plant without the landowner's permission, with extra protection in place for the picking or destruction of rarer species. Breaching the Wildlife and Countryside Act can lead to severe punishments, including unlimited fines and up to 6 months in prison. This is all enforced by police wildlife crime officers and agencies like Natural England. And if you think egg collecting is a thing of the past, you'd be shocked by how recent some of the cases are. In 2011, a notorious egg collector and thief was caught with rare wild bird eggs, which were taken from active bird nests. He ended up with 6 months in prison, and he was even banned from visiting Scotland. And it's not just egg collecting that leads to prosecution. In the UK, one unusual example was the Brighton lobster release, where 2 individuals released hundreds of non-native American lobsters and Dungeness crabs into the sea just off Brighton. This incident posed a major ecological risk and resulted in fines totalling £28,220. The Act doesn't just protect native wildlife, it also prevents ecological damage from invasive non-native species, or INS, and provides protection for sites of special scientific interest, SSIs. Schedule 14 prohibits the release of INS, like Japanese knotweed, into the wild. The Wildlife and Countryside Act also allows the designation of SSIs, which aids in the protection of land which holds high conservation value. This sits as a reminder that the Wildlife and Countryside Act is very real, and courts do impose penalties when these crimes are uncovered. And while these penalties can be severe, they are nowhere near the largest wildlife crime fine ever issued in the UK. We'll get onto that shortly. But now that you know what the law allows for in terms of punishment, do you think the sentences we hear about in wildlife crime cases are always fair? Let me know in the comments. So far, we've looked at protections that can result in criminal offences, but the strongest protections in UK wildlife law sit under a completely different set of regulations. European Protected Species, or EPS. Remember when I asked you to guess the largest wildlife crime fine ever in the UK? The answer is £600,000, plus £30,000 in costs for knowingly destroying a soprano pipistrelle roost. This is why bats are constantly mentioned in planning and development discussions. These species are protected under the Conservation of Habitats and Species Regulations of 2017, and this protection is extremely strict. Unlike many other wildlife protections, EPS protection is very broad and is very powerful. Breaches are considered a criminal offence, very similar to offences under the WCA. Whilst it may be broad, the rules are very clear. The breaches include deliberately capturing, injuring or killing any EPS, deliberately disturbing populations in a way which significantly affects their local distribution, abundance or ability to survive or breed, damaging or destroying a breeding site or resting place. This is what's known as a strict liability offence. In simple terms, it doesn't matter whether the damage was accidental or whether the animal was present at the time, the offence can still apply. Breaches of these laws carry maximum penalties of unlimited fines and up to 6 months in prison. But it doesn't stop there. These fines can also be applied for each affected protected animal, meaning that if a violation affects 5 bats, there could be 5 times the fines. This can lead to absolutely massive totals. There is also a mandatory forfeiture of any protected specimen and a potential seizure of equipment or vehicles used when the offence was committed. On top of the criminal sanctions listed above, there are also civil consequences. These can include even more unlimited fines, stop notices, which will immediately halt all work, and remediation orders, where offenders are instructed to clean up or even restore the habitats at their own expense. EPS includes some of the species most often mentioned in the media. All species of bat, great crested newts, otters, hazel dormice, smooth snakes, natterjack toads, and even more. This protection also covers rare species of plant, such as the fen orchid or Killarney fern. This is one of the biggest misconceptions about protected species. Developers can sometimes proceed with work affecting EPS, but only if they can satisfy strict legal requirements. If a species covered by EPS is to be affected by a development, the developer must obtain a mitigation licence from Natural England. These licences aren't a rubber stamp and can be applied to a huge range of projects, all the way from large infrastructure developments to replacing a roof. The applications of these can be complicated, and to obtain a licence, 3 legal tests must be satisfied. The work must be for an overriding public interest. There is no satisfactory alternative, and 3, the action will not be detrimental to the favourable conservation status of the species. These licences allow for work to commence. Once a licence is granted, it does become legally binding, breaching the terms of the licence, and you can face separate criminal and civil consequences. Again, the media has covered many cases on this, but one case that stands out was when a Derby-based developer was ordered to pay over £14,000 for breaching a mitigation licence. The £600,000 bat case shows what can happen when protected species laws are ignored entirely, and the Derby case is a reminder that even when you have a licence, the paperwork still matters. So, what does all of this actually mean? In short, protected species law isn't about avoiding fines or criminal offences. It's about making sure developments, land management and conservation can happen without causing unnecessary harm to wildlife. Whether you're a developer, landowner, land manager or ecologist, it's your responsibility to make sure the right surveys, licences and mitigation measures are in place before work begins. And in most cases, careful planning and good ecological advice are enough to avoid problems altogether. And that is what being a protected species really means. If you only remember 3 things from this video, make them these. First of all, not all protected species receive the same level of protection. Second, some wildlife offences can result in serious criminal and financial penalties. And third, good ecological advice early in a project is almost always cheaper than dealing with a mistake later. Understanding these protections isn't just important for us ecologists, it's essential for anyone involved in land use, development or conservation. If this helped you learn something or avoid a potentially costly mistake, then hit that like button. It really helps the channel out. And make sure you share this video with anyone else who may encounter a protected species. If you want to learn how you can avoid more expensive mistakes, or learn about how ecologists protect and preserve UK wildlife, make sure to subscribe. Finally, if you want to get more involved in helping protected species, contact your local wildlife groups. They are always looking for more people to help with their work. Now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the field.